Documentation and evidence collection. Documentation of the scene should also be done by the first responders to aid in investigations. Documentation of the scene should include photographs, video, voice recordings, and manual documentations like the room where the device is located, for example, disk ceiling, entrance, exit, windows, lighting, electrical outlets, and data drops. For example, the state of the device you have to include in the manual as well. For example, on or power light blinking or like that. The screen contents and whether the device is on, for example, operating system, running programs, date and time, wired, is the system wired or is wireless network connectivity. You should also include in your manual documentation like books, notes, and pieces of papers. You also know you should not connected, and this you should also note in your manual that connected and disconnected cables. So once the scene has been secured and documented by the first responders, the forensics investigators should also be called in. So if not altered, is altered. If the first responder has been trained in evidence collection and preservation, they can also begin the process of acquiring what can be considered as a physical device, evidence actually. Examples of physical evidence like computer system units, laptops, tablets, fixed and removable storage media, and cables and chargers. Consideration should be given to the physical aspect of the evidence collection phase. Like any other investigation, documentation collection and preservation should be also done while following proper guidelines and best practices. So as mentioned in the previous lectures, to ensure integrity of the investigation, at the crime scene, for example, evidence has to properly identified, labeled, and handled by authorized staff who are trained in investigative procedures that can be scrutinized in a court of law. So a first responder toolkit should contain items in preparation for documentation, evidence collection, and preservation at the scene. For example, we need seizure forms, we need containers, boxes, and packaging materials. Also anti-static and stronghold bags here. We need bright blocking hardware as well here. We need portable imaging and execution devices. We need protective clothing. We need anti-static mat or wristbands. We need e-wears and gloves. We need identification label text like stickers. We need cable ties and other digital forensics evidence collection and preservation tools. So when collecting evidence, we should keep in mind that the volatility of the data. So as mentioned earlier in this lecture, data can be easily lost or destroyed. So as such, when collecting data, a well-documented and common best practice will be to collect evidence in order of the most to least volatile if possible. So documents lists the order of volatility is most. The first order is RAM, the second is running processes, the third is active network connections, the fourth is system settings, and the fifth is storage media. So with this in mind, it's essential to secure the contents of memory and paging file first, as they are the most volatile and can be easily lost. So resulting in the loss of very useful information, including unencrypted passwords, user and program information, network connection information, and other types of useful data. So we don't want that. So before we begin any examination of live systems, it is of high importance that all steps be thoroughly documented, so particularly if the report and evidence are to be presented in court. So investigating a live systems means that logs and timestamps will be generated while the system is being examined. Therefore, through the documentation will justify the actions taken by the forensics examiner and not be viewed as evidence tampering. So when investigating a powered-on device, the procedures should be taken, like move the mouse or glide your fingers across touchpad if you suspect the device may be in a sleep state. Don't click on the buttons, as this may open or close programs and processes. Photograph and record the screen and all visible programs, data, time, and desktop items, and unplug the power cord on desktops and remove the battery if possible on portables. It is the utmost importance that data stored in RAM and paging file be collected with as little modification to the data as possible. More on this will be covered in later lectures using imaging tools like DC3TD, GuiMager, so other level execution tools such as Sane and Helix can also be used for acquiring RAM and paging file. So there are quite a few reasons for imaging and acquiring the RAM. As mentioned in previous lecture, data that may have been encrypted by the user may be stored in an encrypted state in the RAM. So logged in users, open programs, accessed files, and running processes can all be extracted and analyzed if the RAM and paging file are analyzed. However, if the device is switched off or rebooted, this data and evidence can easily be lost. So for powered on portable devices such as laptops and mobile devices, the battery can be removed if possible. So some devices, however, may not have a removable battery inside. So in these cases, the power button should be held down for 20 to 40 seconds, which forces the device to power off. So powered off devices should never be turned on unless done so by the forensics investigator. So special steps must be taken to ensure that existing data is not erased and that new data is not written. So before examining the system, you may want to consider using a pair of latex gloves to avoid leaving additional fingerprints on the systems and components. Devices can often appear as if they are off, but they can be in a sleep or hibernate state. So as a simple testing, mouse can be moved on the monitors and can be switched on to determine whether they are in fact in either of those states. Even if they are in an off state, one should still photograph the screen and ports. So when investigating portable and mobile devices in an alert off state, it is suggested that the battery is removed, so if possible, and place it in an evidence bag to ensure that there will be no way of accidentally turning on the device once unplugged. Once your evidence has been properly documented and collected, we can begin working on acquiring the actual digital evidence. So I will mention this a couple of times in effort to drive home the point, but the original evidence should only be used to create forensics copies or images, which will be discussed later. So working on the digital evidence can and usually will modify the contents of the medium. So for instance, putting a seized laptop into its native OS will allow data to be written to the hard drive and may also erase and modify the contents contained in RAM and paging file. To prevent this from happening, the use of the write blocker must be employed. So write blockers, as the name suggests, prevent data from being written to the evidence media. So write blockers can be found in both hardware and software types. If hardware write blocker is not available, software versions are already available as standalone features in forensics operating systems, including Sane, as we mentioned when we created the lab and installed Sane OS.